Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Transform Now podcast. I'm Michael Marchuk.
And I'm Brad Hairston.
And this is our weekly pulse check of AI and automation news. And this week, Brad, you're on, buddy. I got 5 articles for you. You ready?
I am ready to roll.
Excellent. Before we get started, as you know, all of the show notes will contain the links to these articles so you can read them yourself and make any conclusions that Brad or I don't make on our own here for you. So here we go. First one from Tech Radar Pro. Article is titled From Experiment to Impact, Why AI Agents Need Governance from Day One. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't imagine having governance added after the fact on anything. It sounds like you've already let the horse out of the barn, but tell me about this article.
Yeah, this article makes a lot of very, very good, very sound points. The biggest of which is that companies will get a competitive edge from deploying agents, but it's not about deploying agents the fastest. It's about deploying the right agents and doing it in a safe, explainable, responsible, high quality way. And so that's in essence the point the article's making. You and I nod our heads at that. There's nothing debatable about that. But they highly emphasize governance. The fact that governance is key. That you need to treat AI agents with the same level of rigor, as you would human agents, human people, from when it comes to access control and security measures and things like that. The article mentions that governance is much more than just about, a compliance exercise, which is where our mind always goes. It ensures that every action, every output, all of it is traceable all the way back through the LLMs, back through the raw data that train the LLMs. I mean, you really need a data lineage that is far beyond what most systems today have in place. But with agents, you have to have it because it has to be explainable. And agents can do unpredictable things since they're tapping into large language models. In fact, it also talks about the importance of monitoring agents and doing it in an automated way. Humans are incapable of keeping track of agents in real time and making sure they're doing all the right things. But if you have the right automated systems in place to monitor those agents, then you can detect when bias occurs or some form of harmful behavior, or when they drift away from the guardrails that have been put in place. So really good points in this article. Again, I don't disagree with any of them. I think we live and breathe governance. We preach a governance first approach here at SS&C Blue Prism, or SS&C in general. And when I step back and reflect on this article, I think a lot of these things mentioned are definitely being contemplated by most companies. And this is why so many of them are moving so slowly in deploying agents, because they're eager to shore up all these areas and make sure the foundation is there before they take that step. I see more companies being overly cautious than companies that are just rushing to get stuff out there in a careless way. I know we have stories all the time about things that go wrong when companies didn't plan appropriately, but when I just look at the market in general, I think most companies are being very, very cautious because of these things.
Yeah, I would agree. And so I agree that for complex activities, you're absolutely right. I think they're going to be very cautious because of the implications of what could go wrong. I can imagine somebody looking back at the log after something terrible happens, and sure enough, there's the output log from the agent saying in their chain of thought, let me think about this a bit. Yes, I think this database doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm going to delete it, or something along those lines, where it doesn't necessarily further the cause and maybe causes issues that are unrelated, as you said, to compliance. So these are definitely things that organizations need to take into account. And when you're using a public LLM, very unlikely that you're going to get access back through the data that's trained those particular things, especially as we've mentioned in some of our past calls here, that some of that data is pirated from books that were stolen from across the internet. So anyway,
yeah.
I'll move on. Our next article is from Retail Dive. This is probably something that you are definitely subscribed to. Retail Dive.
No doubt.
That article is called "Amazon Taps Agentic AI to Help Sellers Manage Inventory and Shipments." And this is really an application of AI and agentic AI. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this related to platforms and vendors who are rolling out agents as part of their service offering to allow their customers, in this case, the sellers, to be able to be more effective and efficient at what they do on their platform. So walk us through this one.
This is a really cool agent story. I mean, I read about agents all the time. Many of them I've heard about before, and okay, that sounds like one I've heard about 300 times. This is unique, and I really like it. It's an agent that is specifically designed for the merchants who sell their products on Amazon. And this agent can monitor inventory levels. It can analyze demand patterns, optimize shipments. It can identify slow-moving products. It can suggest price markdowns. It can even generate like custom ad concepts for the merchants. I mean, there's so many things that the article went on and on about all the things that this agent can do for the merchants. And, they mentioned that Amazon has had some success with other types of agents that are geared toward the merchants. They had one they built to help the merchants with the product descriptions, the bullet points, and all the stuff you see when you go to Amazon and you look at a product, filling all that out, making sure you're giving the consumer the right data points. I mean, that's a tedious exercise. Well, they have an agent now that helps the merchants do that. So, this is really slick. And Michael, the reason it's so slick, and I looked this up, Amazon has almost 2 million third-party sellers that are actively using their platform. That estimate might be low. That's what two different sources I read came up with, but 2 million companies that are using their platform, and it represents about 60% of the total units sold on Amazon. It's been extremely successful. And Michael, I know the man who launched the merchant program at Amazon. So shout out to John Rossman. He's a great guy. So I think this agent is a great example of what agentic automation is all about. I mean, this is the epitome of why agents have come into existence, because these agents don't need a lot of human oversight. They don't need to be prompted or told what to do. They know that their job is to make the merchants' life easier, to make them more successful, and to take a lot of customer support off of the hands of humans at Amazon. And from what I can read, they're doing it really, really well.
As long as those agents don't create fake reviews, I'm all for it.
That's true. They could, yeah.
Our next one is from The Independent. Article titled, "Why AI Could Make People More Likely to Lie." And what got me laughing at this one was the picture they used was a picture of Donald Trump. And the little title underneath is Donald Trump says AI is taking over the world. So anyway, I thought that was kind of humorous from that perspective. But I know you would never lie. I mean, you tell me I'm a great guy all the time. So obviously it's true. Why would using AI make people more likely to lie? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's a great question. But let me ask first, isn't The Independent one of the news sources that was featured in Ted Lasso, the guy that was a prominent character in the show, and he always stood up and said, so-and-so from The Independent. So,
yeah.
So I just found that kind of funny. Yeah. So this article is about a new study that has revealed that people feel much more comfortable being deceitful when using AI. Dr. Sandra Wachter, a professor of technology and regulation at the University of Oxford. She's the one behind this. She conducted research with more than 8,000 participants focused on how these people were giving instructions to AI. And they found that 85% of people lied, despite 95% of them essentially being pretty honest when they were not engaging with machines. So she concluded out of all this research that using AI creates a convenient moral distance, if you will, between people and their actions. It can induce them to behaviors they wouldn't necessarily exhibit outside of using a machine or using technology. To me, Michael, this is this is very similar to social media. I mean, when social media first came about, everyone's like, oh, this is great. We can stay connected. We can find friends. We can, rekindle relationships. Then it went totally the wrong direction, and it became this toxic, environment. Now, the algorithms behind it, behind many of the platforms, have exacerbated this. So I'm not going to say it's 100% the fault of the people that are on those platforms, but that is what has happened with social media. People feel somewhat insulated from their environment. They feel like they can say things they wouldn't normally say. They can get more animated and maybe be more provocative. And so I'm not entirely shocked by this about people using AI in a bad way or feeling like they can maybe cross some lines they wouldn't normally cross. I mean, I think that's just kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately.
Yeah. So a couple things related to that. So while they talk about this study focusing on lying and versus not lying when they're in person, the test they used, to me, kind of maybe skewed how this results came out. And no fault of anybody's here, especially not Dr. Sandra Wachter from University of Oxford. I'm sure she's doing an amazing job. But the idea behind it is a dice roll, and you roll a dice, and if you get a higher number, you get more points. And so when the AI asks you what was your score, there really isn't any accountability, and there's also very low risk associated with this. So if I said what if I said I rolled a 7 on a 6-sided die? Would the AI go, oh, okay, great, you got a 7, and it would keep moving on? And it would even think about, well, the fact you can't only go by up to 6, what's that? Or, well, it's interesting that you've rolled 18 6s in a row to get this high score. So there's the lack of accountability and the lack of consequences for doing this. I think it's a difficult experiment to run otherwise, to get some consistency. But I think that's part of it, is that there really wasn't anything behind it in either way. Whether you lied or didn't lie, you walked away and nothing happens, whether you were perfectly honest or not. So,
Michael,
that was a challenge for me.
We spend so much time thinking about the outputs from large language models and how they can be wrong and hallucinate. They can hallucinate, and we often forget about the fact that the people involved in AI can also be part of the problem, and they can, we need guardrails there as well. So that was the conclusion of this research. They pushed hard for more technical safeguards and regulatory frameworks. No surprise there. We agree with that. I mean, we have spent a lot of time and money and effort to build the AI gateway at SS&C, which helps us make sure that AI is being consumed in a safe and responsible, protected way. So this is yet one more aspect of the world of AI that we don't talk about as much, but it can drive humans to do things that are a bit unexpected.
That is for sure. So as we talk about governance and potential threats from AI, let's go to our next article from Business Insider. This one is another one I think would be very interesting to talk through here. Anthropic co-founders say the likelihood of AI replacing human jobs is so high that they needed to warn the world about it. Okay, so these folks here are building the systems and now they're ringing the bells, saying that, we better think about this a little bit more. So tell us what Dario Amodei had to say about this.
I think it's a pretty noble thing, the fact that the co-founders of Anthropic, Dario Amodei and Jack Clark, think that AI replacing humans is likely enough to happen, that they really feel the need to warn the world about it and speak honestly. I mean, I do give them credit. They didn't have to do that. They could just sit around and count their money and that kind of thing. But the fact that they're they're doing it, and they're being somewhat. I mean, they're doing it loudly. They're making some pretty bold statements, and in fact, Amity in May of this year said that he thinks AI could eliminate half of all entry-level white-collar jobs in fields like law and finance and consulting, all within the next 5 years. And he says, this could drive unemployment up to 10 to 20%. And just for reference, in the COVID, the US got to about 14.7% unemployment. So that's certainly at COVID levels. But if you get to 20% and higher, you're getting up to the Great Depression. I mean, that's the highest level of unemployment that our country has ever faced. So that's pretty dramatic. Now, he counters all of this by saying, and the article captured this quote, that he thinks there's a 25% chance that AI will go really, really badly, but a 75% chance that everything will go smashingly well.
Let's go back to that. Let's go back to that last article and just roll the dice and ask AI what it rolled.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how they want to warn everybody, and then they say, yeah, but there's a 75% chance that everything will go great.
Yeah.
So where my mind goes with all of this, Michael, is I think we've talked about this a lot. We need to, I think, dramatically rethink the way we educate kids during the pre-college years and also during the college years. So even rethinking the disciplines that we're teaching. I mean, the world has changed dramatically, but it still feels like too many higher ed institutions are acting like everything's the same. Come get an accounting degree, come get, they continue on and they feel like, life continues as is, but there are some that are starting to integrate more lines of discipline and more teaching around practical, adaptable, like critical thinking skills and things like that. But I think we need a much bigger shakeup. We need more programs, more AI literacy woven in, more AI-based programs. I mean, there really are new occupations, new jobs, new roles that are cropping up every single day. We ought to be preparing the next generation of the workforce for those roles. And I just don't see enough evidence to make me feel like we're doing that.
I think some of that has to do with the speed at which all of this is happening.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, for a core curriculum to even get approved by a school board, you're not talking months, you're probably talking years. And we're having AI capabilities change weekly. So getting to that point, there's a definite need for it. But I think it's going to be tough just because people don't move that fast, especially people who need to be educated on how this is going to work and how things are changing. Because at this point in time, you can say, well, I'm not really seeing it right now.
Yeah.
And the problem we're going to have is by the time you do see it, it's going to be too late to have to go back and try to do something about it. So there are definitely things we need to do. The other thing that struck me too with this, so Anthropic co-founders are talking about this. OpenAI founders are talking about this. I heard the other day. This is not new. So when Sam Altman and these guys are out going saying the same thing, like, hey, there's a small chance that this could go really wrong, but you can't say for sure. So it's just a percentage chance, right? But the fact that they're openly talking about it is very interesting.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So speaking of someone who openly talks and a lot of people listen to, we'll go back to the Independent again here and talk about Elon Musk, shall we? So this article is Elon Musk says the next version of Grok will be AGI. AGI being artificial general intelligence.
Yeah.
So we had two other founders of companies who are building AI sounding a bell about the alarms. And then we have Elon Musk talking about Grok saying, our next version might be AGI. So what do you think about that?
Yeah. So Grok 4 has reportedly outperformed many of the rival AI systems at problem solving and open program synthesis tasks. And so Elon comes out of that saying, well, XAI really has a chance of reaching AGI with Grok 5. So it will essentially, match or surpass humans at all cognitive tasks. This is a pretty bold statement. Grok, according to Elon, has he describes it as the smartest AI in the world, better than PhD level across every subject. And the irony here is pretty thick, because just 8 months before the launch of Grok, which was about a year after ChatGPT, Elon wrote an open letter, threatening or asking that all of the AI companies suspend their research and their work, because this is a huge potential threat to humanity. And it wasn't just from him. The letter was co-signed by Steve Wozniak, the Apple co-founder, and then some people at Google DeepMind. So now, 2 years after launching Grok, he's all in on AGI. He's not worried about it at all. Quite a turnaround. I think maybe the letter was more his disgust at OpenAI, deciding to go profit and for profit, and him not being a part of that. But yeah, he's 100% on board with AGI, and he's thinking that Grok 5 will be the first platform to get there. Now, Grok has not been without controversy. There's been a lot of stories recently about things that have come out of Grok that have been shocking and somewhat, unfiltered, people wondering why they're not filtered in a better way. So, Michael, do you find yourself using Grok very much? I'm just curious.
Yes, I use Grok often. I use Grok, I use Anthropic, I use ChatGPT, I use all of the models, and I will not say pit them against each other, but I will ask them all similar questions to understand what they're coming up with for their responses, because sometimes one response or a combination of the responses actually changes my mind or allows me to produce better content myself.
Right.
So it's not just one of the models, but a combination of that tend to do it for me.
I use it a lot myself. I think it is very good, very powerful. I seem to get less restrictions in terms of usage than I do on other platforms. ChatGPT, I'll give it some complex prompts, and really make it work. And within like 2 or 3 prompts, I get this message: oh, you can't get back in for another day, or whatever. I mean, I'm using,
because you're a free user.
I'm a free user of everything. I'm a free user of Grok too, but it just feels like I never get that when I'm using Grok. Whereas ChatGPT and Anthropic and some of the others, they kind of recognize when you're making the model work too hard or you're using too much processing power. Grok seems to have a lot and that at my disposal. So I like that. So, but yeah, we'll keep our eyes on Grok 5 and see if we get to AGI.
Grok 5 will keep his eyes on you. So
that's true. Well said.
All right, everybody. Well, that's all we got for this week's Transform Now Pulse Check. As you know, every week we have a great guest, and I encourage you to listen to that guest because they know a lot more about stuff than we do. So until next time, this is the Pulse Check.